My name is Sandra O'Connell. I have been teaching technology classes for seniors at the Reston Community Center since the program began, nearly 20 years ago. In that time, I've seen amazing changes, both in the technology and in its acceptance, particularly by those of us, let's say, are at least over 50, and some of us all the way up to 90 or so. So today we're going to cover an exciting new way to use the internet in a class called Staying in Touch, Chat Apps for the New Normal. These are indeed strange and bizarre times, but the technology may come to your rescue. If you want to know more about classes, you can go to restoncommunitycenter.com. Well, the world as we have known it, with family celebrations, hugs from grandchildren, lunches with friends, began to close down, as we know, in mid-March. So just as we're most in need of a familiar face, of conversation, of a shoulder to lean on, it has been eroded. We have, between the distancing and wearing masks and the fear of the unknown in the air, we are cut off from our normal kinds of communication. So the technology to the rescue. Most likely you have seen chat apps being used on television because some of them are widely used. And if you've seen any of the concerts that have been done, or actually any television production, they are using some form of these apps in order to make that work. So here are the topics we're going to cover in this short class. We're going to talk about just briefly what are video chat apps, what technology might you need, how do you use them, what do they cost, and we'll take a brief peek into some of the privacy issues, which are always a very big concern. And throughout, we're going to be trying to assess which one of these, and it may be more than one, is best for you and for your situation. You might want to have a notebook handy to take notes, just so that you can try out some of these things after the class. So just briefly, what are chat apps? Well, first of all, an app is just shorthand for application, meaning it's software, a set of directions that tells the computer what to do. So the term has gotten very common. Now, these apps, as they're known, allow you to call or chat face-to-face with video to family and friends all over the world. And that's one of its great advantages. It's not just the people who are close to you, but anywhere in the world. You use the internet to connect. Now, if you're using a phone for some of these, sometimes you might be using a data plan. You always want to make sure you're using the internet aspect of your phone because these are what are called very robust apps, and they can eat up a lot of your data. There are dozens of options available. There are so many of them out there, it's just bewildering. Today, we're just going to cover 5 of the most popular ones. The basic features in chat apps are free to use, and I'll be going over when you get into a situation that might incur some fees. By and large, their fees are not that much, but you want to be aware of when that might happen. It allows you to talk with many people at the same time. So as we'll see and talk about, you can be having perhaps a family meeting. I know of families who are having their Sunday dinner, and they've got people from all over the country joining in. And you can even make it international if you like. So there are some, depending on the app, there are some limits on the number of people, but we'll talk about that. One thing to be aware of is that how a particular one of these acts or behaves, or if you're using one, if you're using it on the phone, say one of them is called Skype, if you're using it on the phone versus using it on your computer, it may look different, it may behave a little different, not vastly so, but enough that it might be just be aware that they don't always look the same. It kind of depends on which device that you're using. So the first thing to think about is to identify what technology you and the people you want to talk with are going to be using. So you need to understand just a little bit, are they, what's available to you and what's available to the people on the other end. Now these will work on telephones, on computers, on laptops, on tablet computers. So they'll work, but it will be helpful to know which technology basis you're using. So for example, are you using Apple, which are iPhones, iPad, and Mac computers? All computers, phones, and laptops, whatever they are, have what's called a basic operating system. That's the set of directions that lets the computer know how to do different things. So in the olden days, as we call them, those systems were not compatible. Today things are much different and much better. But you need to understand, first of all, are you going to be using all Apple products or not? If everyone's on an Apple product, your solution is very simple. But if you're on a mixed variety, like an Apple and a Windows 10 computer, it can still work. It just means you have to think about which of the technologies you're going to be using. So you could be using an Android phone, you could be using a laptop. What's really important, however, to understand is that whatever you're using, particularly if it's a desktop or a laptop, it must have a camera and a microphone. So newer laptops all have that, tablets all have it, phones all have it. Some older computers may not have the camera or the microphone built in. So the alternative to that is to purchase something called a webcam. Now I checked on that recently, and because of the health events, webcams are very hard to find these days. So if you don't already have one, you may not be able to find one. But just realize there will usually be a very small aperture at the top of a screen that's going to let you know that there is a camera there. So that's one of the prerequisites. Okay. Then the next thing to think about is what type of a gathering do you want to have? Do you want just a quick check-in with somebody? Do you want to spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes reading a book to a small grandchild? Do you want to have a happy hour with a group of friends? So think about how much time and how many people. And that's going to be important as we go into comparing the different apps. All right. So here are the most popular ones, beginning with what's happened during the COVID-19 crisis. This comes from PC Magazine in, I think, May of this year, of 2020. And this is not the percentage of the full marketplace, it just means the percentage of growth. So the ones that are the most common, and these are the 5 what we'll be talking about today that you can investigate, are Facetime, which is owned by Apple, Facebook Messenger, owned by Facebook, Zoom, which you probably have heard of, Skype, and WhatsApp. So we're going to look at each of these briefly. They're different in some ways. They all do the basics, however. So the first one that we're going to talk about is called Facetime. Now, this is for people who are an Apple family. Everybody needs to be using an Apple device in order to use Facetime. It is probably the simplest way to go, without a doubt, as long as everybody's on an Apple. Now, it could be a phone, it could be a tablet, it could be a laptop or an iMac. Doesn't matter as long as it's working with Apple. So it's all built in. The reason it's so easy is it's already built in. You don't have to do anything, and it's free. So pluses. It's already installed. There are no charges. You do need to be using a current operating, reasonably current, at least 12.1.4, and the latest operating system is 13.5. So you need to be up to date. You can use any one of their products. If you're using tablets, you need to be on the more current ones. Not the latest necessarily, but don't try the earliest Apple Mini on this. It's not going to work because it just doesn't have the capacity, or it doesn't even have FaceTime built in. So anything that's reasonably current will work. You can, of course, choose to answer because it rings. None of us like to be surprised. I surprised someone yesterday morning, not that early, but still early. Sometimes you might want to set up a time to let people know you're going to be calling, but you can choose not to answer. Now, you can have up to 32 people join in. In the earlier versions, you couldn't do that. It was pretty much one-on-one. But now you can have 32 people join in. And what happens is you use your contacts list to call. So your contacts that are built into most people, if they're using particularly an Apple phone, they have their contacts already there. If they're not there, you can always put the contact in. So how do you make a call? The first thing to do, if you haven't used it before, is to go to Settings, which is an icon that looks like a gear, and make sure in Settings that you go down and look to see that FaceTime has been what's called enabled. You want the little green slider, you want the slider to be on green. So that's just the first thing to check. Then what you do is, what you do is you pick up, you then go to the icon for FaceTime. You tap the add button, which I'll do in a minute, and then you can enter the name of your contacts, and if they're not there, or just tap. And to start the FaceTime call, you just tap video. So I am going to call my niece, who is in Knoxville, and tap video.
Hello.
Hi, good morning. This is Sarah, my niece who is in Knoxville. We're going to do this real briefly, Sarah, because we're testing so many. Just tell me, explain to the audience, how do you use FaceTime? Because you're an Apple family, aren't you?
We are. Dylan has it on his iPad. Dad has it on his iPad. You have it on your iPad. So it's just the easiest way to be able to chat and see each other's faces when we need to, or if I need to show something to Dylan at the store, it's a really easy thing other than having to take a picture, and it's just a simple way for us to communicate.
Okay, and you use it, her dad or the grandfather lives about an hour away, so you use it that way also to keep in touch?
We do, and let him see, our daughter Lila, and be able to visit more since we can't travel out there right now.
Yeah. So it's just, I think the thing about Apple is if you are an Apple family, this is so easy to do. There's no setup. It's free. You can have multiple people. There you go. Okay, I'll talk to you in 2 or 3 minutes, Sarah. We're going to try Messenger. All right?
Okay, sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.
The next chat app we want to talk about is called Skype. It's one that probably you've heard of. It's been around for quite a while. It's similar to Apple's FaceTime, but it is owned by Microsoft. So you need, however, to download Skype and have an account in order to use it. In contrast with on Apple, it's built in. So this is very simple, but you do need to go through that step. And you need to make sure you're on version 8 if you're working across platforms. Earlier I talked about if someone's on an Apple and someone's on an Android phone and someone else is using a Windows 10, this works fine as long as you're on version 8 of Skype. So if you're using different platforms, Skype is probably the easiest one to use. It's free. There are some extra features, however, that that require money. Understand that Skype, the way their technology is set up, they can look at your calls at the other end. Apple does not, but they can. And I'll talk about that when I talk about privacy a little bit later. It's easiest when you're going across platforms. And if both parties are using Skype, the video call is free. But if you're calling, if you just want to use it for phone, which people have used in the past, you have to have a Skype subscription to do that. So you want to go to skype.com and download it. You just click, and it will figure out what operating system you have. And you just need to follow the on-screen directions for it to download. And then you'll be prompted to set up the program, and you always want to choose Save. And then it will be on your computer. So to make a call, you click on the Skype app. So, and that will be on your device, your phone or your computer. You find the person you want to call from your contacts list, or you can enter in, usually it's a phone number. And then if you want to make a group call, you use the plus sign to add another participant. And at the end, you just go through the end call button to hang up. So now we're going to try and call, not try, we will call Sarah using Skype. I'm going to call Skype. And I'm going to say, here, I've got Sarah's already in here. Or up here, you can see where you can do groups and messages, and you can look for your contacts. So I'm going to go meet now. Finally. Hello.
Hello.
We finally got to Skype. Sorry, it wasn't, it took a minute. Okay. So do you use Skype very often? Or how much?
I don't use this one as often. I used to use it a lot more, but I tend to use either FaceTime or Facebook Messenger more with my friends.
Okay, did you use FaceTime primarily for when you're using phone? Because wasn't Skype really popular for phone calls?
It was really popular for phone calls, and I used to call my mom a lot on this because she didn't have an Apple.
Oh, okay, great use for it. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm going to now try and go ahead and sign this off just to see how it worked, and then I'm going to do one more. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we have time.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm signing off. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. The next chat app we want to talk about is called Facebook Messenger. Now, I have found from my teaching that many people, particularly seniors, have Facebook accounts only to keep up with their children and grandchildren and to see those pictures that are posted. But some are active, meaning you post and make different comments, but many people are not. But if you already have a Facebook account, this is a really nifty solution for you because it's already set up. So you can, again, chat with anybody on the network. But be aware, you can also download it as a separate app. So for example, my niece, whom you've just been seeing, has it on her phone. So, and it's a separate app. It doesn't require the full Facebook in order to be able to use it. The text and video chat are free, so you can exchange information. If you're using your phone, you need to understand if you're not on the internet spot, it might use your data plan, and you want to be aware of that. Now, there's one that I'll have Sarah talk about called Messenger Kids, which is a version that parents can control, which then gives kids the option to have some of their own messaging and play dates with friends. You can reach friends both on the phone and the web, so you can be at home or you can be using it from the phone. You can have up to 8 people on a call. So again, that's where it comes in. You need to understand how many people do you want. And you can now on Messenger set up rooms, which will allow you to have up to 50 people. So you could have a bigger gathering. Be aware that it looks different on different devices. It's probably best for people who are experienced Facebook users. If you're not using Facebook, I wouldn't recommend that you start this. It's probably just easier to use Skype. But if you already are a Facebook user, then you just have to look for it on your app, or if you want, you can download it as a separate app onto your phone. Same steps, you log on to Facebook. From the home screen, you're going to look and click on the messenger icon, which we'll do in a minute. You want to click the camera button or the phone button to tell you what kind of call you're making. And then you just tap audio or video and tap your contact. And that's how that works. So we're going to go do Skype. We're going to do Facebook Messenger now. I'm not an active user on Facebook. I have it mainly to follow some of the pictures that Sarah posts. And it can be, it's very visual, so that's part of its power. You can have a Facebook Messenger account without setting up a whole Facebook profile. You do need, however, to have a Facebook account set up. So I'm going to go over to the far right of the screen, all right? And there's a symbol there for Facebook Messenger. I'm going to click on that. Okay, and then I can come down here, and here are some contacts. So, okay, and I'm going to click on Sarah, and I'm going to go to video. And I clicked on the little camera for the video. See, there we go. See, you can hear it ringing, and you can choose to answer or not answer. There you are again. Good morning. On this one, Sarah, I mentioned in the material Facebook Messenger. You're a longtime Facebook user. You're active. It's great. Yeah, it's great for putting a lot of pictures on. Talk about the kids Messenger and how you use that. She has an 8-year-old daughter, and with trying to keep an 8-year-old with to even have playmates. So how do you use? Talk about kids Messenger.
Messenger Kids is a separate app that parents can control who gets added on. They can also control the times that they're allowed to use it. Now, when my daughter wants to add a friend, there's a code that you have to put in, and it says it right there on the messenger. It's usually a color, might be like red ball. But it's really nice for Lila to be able to talk with her classmates and friends, and she's not been able to play with them all summer. They can video chat, they can send messages back and forth.
What controls do you have over it? What controls do you have?
I have the ability to not let her add somebody on there. I have the ability to set the time so she can't use it before 8 a.m. She can't use it before 8 p.m. I have the ability to sign her off. And it also shows me how many messages are being sent, how many video chats are being done, how many pictures are taken, and it shows me, every picture that has been taken and sent. Oh,
okay. So that's an outstanding feature. I think it's the parental controls as a parent. So would you recommend Facebook Messenger in general for a new person? Or should
I would recommend it to somebody who is familiar with the Facebook platform.
Yeah.
It's a very nice thing to use across devices if you're familiar with it.
Okay. See ya. Thanks so much for your help. Okay. Bye-bye. Okay.
Bye.
And then you see the little red phone down there, then you just say close. And the call is ended. The next chat video app we want to talk about is called Zoom. No doubt you've heard about it because many of the television producers are using it. You may have seen some of these wonderful YouTubes of choirs, not YouTube, but Zoom chats of choirs putting together music with different people, and you've seen them all. Now, it takes a fair amount of sophisticated editing, but at its basis, they're using a product called Zoom. Now, Zoom has been around for a while. not as long as some of the other ones. It's really started as a business app primarily, and companies were using it, and because it's a wonderful way to do conferencing and get work done in multiple locations. But it's now used a lot by the individual consumer. It has just exploded this spring with people setting up Zoom meetings. In fact, I've heard a phrase now that says, I'm Zoomed out, people on all these different Zoom get-togethers. So great thing is the platform is compatible across systems, so it doesn't matter which device you're on. And one of its great pluses is for people who are participating, not the ones setting it up, but participating, you don't even have to go and download anything. In a minute, I will show you all you have to do is click on a link. So this is another one for people that's very easy to do. It's simplicity at its best. You don't need an account to attend a Zoom meeting, and they're free to set up and to organize. And particularly, it's always free for the participant. In a minute, I'll talk about the pricing. The interface, that is how you get around in it, is pretty, what we call intuitive, easy to use, because there'll be a picture of a microphone, and if your microphone isn't on, it'll have a line through it, or it'll be in red, so it's telling you, hey, your mic is not on. So again, you have to have a device that has a microphone and a picture in it in order for this to work. It's got some really popular features. I think Skype can do some of the same things. It's called gallery view. So if you have 5 or 6 people on it, it will show each person's face. And when they talk, it picks up from the microphone, and their little square will be outlined. It's kind of like there was a television show, I'm dating myself, called Hollywood Squares, and it'll look something like that. So it can be a lot of fun. And it has a lot of power. I mean, it can do a great deal. It can be used in a simple way, but it can also be used for teaching classes as well. So, Zoom pricing. This is something to understand. Zoom Basic, their offering is free, and but it has some limits on it. So you can have an unlimited number of one-to-one meetings. However, if you get more than 3 participants, your time is limited to 40 minutes. And it will cut you off. So again, that only applies if you have more than 3 people on it. And if you're going to use it just occasionally, it's the plan to select. It's easy. There does have to be a host, somebody who sets it up and sends out the invitation and the link. But this would be a very easy, fast way to go. Now, the next level, there's actually some levels for corporations that I'm not going to talk about, but here, there is another level to think about if you're going to be using this a lot, and it's called Zoom Pro, and it's about $15 a month, and you can cut it off at any time that you like. Whereas it allows you a little more complexity, a little more power and control. You can create an ID like you could say the Stone family meeting on Sunday night and have a family dinner. So you can set things up. You also can record meetings and store them in the cloud or on your computer. So if it's something you want to share or replicate at another time, you can do that as well. I think they give you 1 gigabyte of space, which is enough probably for an hour or so. You can add up to 100 people, and the real advantage here is you don't have a time limit. It's up to 24 hours. So you set up a meeting, and you can have up to 100 people, and it can go as long as you want, and you can record it. So that's what you would get for $15 a month. Corporations, of course, have whole other levels to work with. So how does Zoom work? Well, Zoom works differently than some of the others in that the host schedules a meeting. You go in and set up a time for the meeting, give it a name, and then there's an easy way where it just says, do you want to copy the invitation? So you copy the invitation, it creates a copy, then the host goes into his or her email and then selects the email addresses and sends the link. Then it says, oh, you have been invited to a Friday night get together of the golf group. Okay, fine. So then when it comes to 7 o'clock or 10 in the morning, whenever it is, then you go into your device, whether it's a computer or phone, and you click on it, and it then you do. It does say, do you want to download? It gives you the choice. You click on that, it downloads, and then you launch the Zoom meeting, and then the host can see that you're there. So you want to click on the Start Video button. And the host who scheduled the meeting has a lot of control. They can mute people. They can share what's on the computer screen. There are a lot of other things you want to do. The people I know that have enjoyed it the most, frankly, are just using it to be connected with a group of friends. In some places, I know people are taking classes from a center or a church or some other place. So it can be used in a lot of different ways because it's just what we call, it's a robust. It has a lot of features. But it's also at the one level very simple to use. Again, you're not downloading anything onto your computer and you're not opening an account. Whereas in some of the others, like Facebook Messenger, you need an account. What you see on the screen, my screen here, is I have a Zoom Pro account. So that let me to go in and see, I set a time, I set up a class and it says Reston YouTube class, it has an ID, and I copied that and then I sent it to Sarah. So she has that link and she will have that on her phone. And there's, again, a lot of other kinds of things you can do. They have something called room management, lets you go into a lot more detail. But again, for the basics, I think most of us would be quite happy with just having the regular Zoom. So let me see what happens here. We'll see. And one other thing before I do that, you'll see up here it says Get Training. Zoom is particularly good at this, but for those of you who say, hey, this is sort of interesting, but how would I go about doing this? There are classes on YouTube and on the internet for all of these. So if you want to know more, just go and say, how do I Skype? Or how do I set Skype up? How do I use Messenger? And you will see things on the computer that will give you more help. But Zoom has a lot of different classes, and some you can read, or some are actually videos that you can watch. So that should make you more comfortable. So let's see what happens if we say start. Now, I'm going to start this meeting. And notice it's something that says Open Zoom Meetings. And this will come up every time. And then over here, it says, okay, I'm coming here, it says Open Zoom Meetings. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to connect. And one of the great there, okay. And it says, I'm using computer audio, meaning the audio coming through here, through this computer, we hope. And then you have something be full screen. Okay, now it says she's in the waiting room. And I'm going, okay. So I'm going to show you the waiting room. The waiting room shows me there's one person waiting, and it shows me the host, and then you can see all the people who are coming in. And so then it comes and I can say admit or remove. So I'm going to admit Sarah. And
hello.
Hello. Now I need to see. You're not.
Oh, hold on. I have to.
There you are. Okay. Drive safe. Hello.
I'm in the parking lot.
Oh well, that's.
I'm not driving.
That's good. Not driving. I just want to make sure we're doing everything safely. Okay.
No, I'm not driving. I'm parked in a parking lot.
Okay, good. Now the Zoom is another one, but you see how easy this. She does not have to have Zoom on her. She's on her phone. Before you were on your tablet at home, right? When we were doing that earlier.
I was on my desktop at home.
Desktop. So you see the flexibility you have to move from different ones. So here's Sarah on there. Okay. Have you done Zoom very much? Are you using, Sarah's a teacher's aide and works in the school system. Are you using Zoom in the school?
I did not personally for my students, but Lila did with her class. It was a great way for her to have one-on-one conversations with her teacher, but then her teacher would get the whole class to come together just to kind of do a check-in, and would do fun activities and games with them. And it was really great for her to see her teacher and her classmates since we couldn't finish the school year out in person.
Could you see the classmates on the screen? All of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You could see all the classmates on the screen,
wow.
Or you could set it up to only see one person who's talking.
Right, yeah. The host has controls over that, so the host can say, person who's talking, it works off the microphone, or you can see that right now we're looking at 2, and if we had 5 or 6, they would be up here like a little mosaic moving around. All right. So does her husband works as a communications director for an association? Does he use Zoom at work for meetings? Oh, does Dylan use? Okay. Use it at work? Oh. Huh. It's frozen.
No, we are on we use Google.
Oh, he uses the Google platform. Right, okay. So what in your household, what works best for you? Do you use more than one of these video chat apps?
We usually use FaceTime because Apple.
It's going out, okay.
Then she'll use Messenger, Facebook Messenger, to video chat with us while we're in the house.
Okay. So how important has it been for you to have this capability during this time?
It's been really important. It's nice to be able to see friends. It's nice to be able to see family. For Lila to be able to socialize has been really important. She needs to be able to see her friends and laugh and have fun, even though they can't do it in person.
Yeah. Okay. And for you and I to laugh and have fun, even if we can't see it in person.
Yes.
And you can make fun of my when I didn't have a haircut. Okay. Thank you very much, sweetheart. Talk to you later.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay. And then I go to end meeting for all, or somebody can go in and just say leave meeting. All right. So there's one other app. We won't be doing a demonstration, but the 5th most popular one is called WhatsApp. It's again this one's been around for a really long time. It's text and voice messaging. It's now a subsidiary of Facebook. So in a way, it's competing with Messenger. But generally, Messenger is going to be used by people who already have a Facebook account. So you can use it on both your desktop and on mobile devices. It uses the internet connection to send and receive messages. People have been using this for years to make phone calls, particularly internationally, because it was free. They've changed that model a bit. You don't have to pay for every message as long as you haven't exceeded your data limit, and you always want to be attuned to what your data limit is. Or if you're connected on your phone on a Wi-Fi network. So that's what you want to be aware of. Charges may apply if you're on your phone and it's roaming. If it's looking for a signal, then you're in a different mode. And then if you connect, you will incur data charges. Now, you can load. It used to be just a phone-to-phone app, and they've expanded it. You can download it to your desktop computer, but group calls are limited to 4 people. Again, it goes back to think about how many people and how you want to be using it. Now, this is another app that is going to require you to do a download. So you want to go to whatsapp.com. It will then send something to your phone. You need to have a phone that a smartphone, so to activate it, because then you need to scan a code from your phone. So if you're not comfortable or don't know what that is, then you want to go back and just use Skype. So again, like the others, you open and sign on. There will be a navigation bar, and you tap chats, and you can select a group chat. So if you have 4 or fewer people, then you can have a video call. If you get to more than that, the group call, then you have to look at what program you're on, what plan rather, and are there going to be some charges? And there's the little scan code that you have to have in order to get started. So I'm going to talk just briefly about privacy and encryption, and then we have a chart that we're going to summarize and help you pick which app that you think or apps might work for you. What is privacy? Well, we've probably all heard and seen some of the news about people listening in or hacking into conversations. Just the basics about privacy. The messages on these apps are encrypted. That means that the data that you're sending is scrambled. And it's scrambled when it leaves your device. And then when it gets to the other end, there's a key that unscrambles it. But while it's in process over the internet, it's scrambled. And yes, some of the basics can be hacked if you're sophisticated enough. Now, it's the company managing the app has to put this into play. And they, in most cases, and you've probably heard some of the conversation in the news about this, will they be giving up the conversation? So the federal government in some cases has tried to get some of these. So the company on the other end can sometimes view these. Now there's something that's different that's being used now and coming into play, and that's called end-to-end encryption, or E2EE. Now what E2EE means is that it's only those involved in the conversation can listen to it or can watch it. So it's a much tighter, a much more complex version of encryption. And it's much more complex for the creator of the app to manage. So it is considered the most secure form of encryption, however. So, and increasingly devices are going to that or making it an option. And when we look at the summary of the different apps, you'll see what their capability is and how they work. So the security is getting better. I don't think there's anything as a totally foolproof, because whatever is put in place, there are some hackers. So if you're looking for 100% guarantee, there probably isn't such a thing, but for the most part, with the end-to-end encryption, you're going to be pretty secure. Now, how do you figure out which one of these is best for you? Well, first of all, it's going to be partly driven by what equipment you have. So as we've said, and as Sarah pointed out, if you have Apple and everybody's on an Apple, the simplest thing to do is just use FaceTime. It's there, it's quick, and it's all built in, and it's free. And now they've improved it so you can actually have group calls on FaceTime. So that one is a pretty much a simple solution. Now realize it does not go across platforms. It is pre-installed. They do have end-to-end encryption. Apple has always been a bit better at that than some of the other companies, although they're pretty much all catching up. And it's free. So think about that. Skype, again, we've been saying, is the simplest to go across platforms. If you're not used to this, or you haven't done too much, then downloading the Skype app would probably be the place for you to begin. It's the easiest to go across platforms. It is a Microsoft product. And now, do they have end-to-end encryption? They do, but it's up to you to make sure it's set up. With Apple, it's called the default. That is, it's just on automatically. With Skype, it is not. You have to go into a setting and say, I want a private conversation. and then that will activate the end-to-end encryption. So you just need to be aware, some of them are by default and others are not. And so in this case, it's up to you to make that work. Calls are free. If you get into some of the more advanced features, you may run into some charges. Facebook Messenger, as we've talked about, if you're on the Facebook already, if you've used it, it's already there, or you can download it to your phone. It does require you have a Facebook account, and not everybody's comfortable doing that. And if you do set it up, make sure you set it up very carefully with the profile. However, if you're only going to use Facebook Messenger, you do not have to build a Facebook profile, but you do have to have an account. So you see how you feel about that. Again, encryption, it's available, but it's up to you. So it's called a secret mode. It's not by default. So many of the issues that have come up in Facebook and Twitter and some of these other online social media is because the users did not know or understand or take the time to go into settings where all the privacy controls are. They're not perfect, but they are there, and they're getting better. So you want to make sure that if you're going to use that, you go into the mode that allows you for a secret conversation. It's free, but if you're on a phone, it might use your data plan. Zoom, as we saw, works across platforms. And Zoom is another one that's very easy for participants because you're not putting anything else on your computer or your laptop or your tablet or your phone. You're just clicking a link that's there for that amount of time, and then it goes away. So that makes it a pretty easy one to use. Now, do they have end-to-end encryption? There were some newsworthy cases where it had been hacked. So they were working on it anyway, but the end-to-end encryption as a standard was in development as of the end of May, so I expect to see that being rolling out fairly soon. So that will be a feature. It is free with some limits. As we said, you can only have 3 people, and you can only talk for 40 minutes for the free version. And Zoom Pro is $15 a month for the host to set up, which gives you a lot more features. WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, so they are sort of competing with their own products, but it's because it's been around and has a big customer base. So they bought it for billions of dollars to get those customers. So it's good for basic calling. They do have end-to-end encryption by default, but it's not on that's on the phone app. It's not on the desktop one. That may change, but that's what it is for now, and it is free. So this chart helps you to think about it. I hope right now you're at home thinking about which might work for me. Could I use more than one? Sure. I use FaceTime and I use Zoom. Those are the 2 personally that work best for me. I have used Skype, but these are the ones that, given the people that I know and what I do, so you have to find what's going to work best for you. So all of that said, what are the benefits? Why would you do this? Some people are already doing it, perhaps reluctantly, perhaps not reluctantly. Why would you do this? Well, video chatting is a convenient way to stay connected any place, anytime. You can be anywhere in the world. You can just go in and say good morning. I know people who are actually reading stories to their grandchildren this way. People are taking classes. So it provides such a variety of ways to stay in touch and be active. And unlike phone calls or texting, which most people are used to now, this allows you to see facial expressions, to watch body language, to see people smile and laugh. So it gives you a much richer conversation. And as I said a few minutes ago, there are lots of tutorials online. Just go into the internet to Bing or Google and say which one you want to use and say, how do I use Skype, how do I use Messenger, and you'll get some more information. So there are a lot of resources out there. This is meant to give you an overview and to encourage you to use it. So it's in this, you might be doing a Sunday dinner. You might set one of those up. You could have a happy hour. I had a 2-hour chat with an old friend who lives in California on Skype. So it can do so much to enrich your days. And after all, a virtual hug is better than no hug at all. I encourage you to try one or more of these video chat apps.